Hey! Hi, how you doing? This is the Gamertron, and welcome back to the Gamertron Show. The gaming community and the video game industry certainly have evolved over the past several decades, haven't they? You look back at both of these entities back in the 80s, 90s, early 2000s, totally different beasts from today. But one underlying factor has remained and persisted throughout all these years: the dehumanization of one another. The corporations looking at consumers as nothing more than statistics and sources of revenue, while gamers look upon the corporations big and small as the enemy, as villains. They're all out to get you. That, or they worship them as infallible deities. But I don't mean them as in the individual developers, the individual people who make the games. I mean the brands, the brand names. And that's what I want to talk about here today in this video. You see, a lot of fellow YouTubers far larger than me have a consistent trend of going on and making video after video about corporate greed in the video game industry. I'm criticized for being so apathetic towards it. Personally, for me, the reason for my apathy is that, well, corporate greed doesn't surprise me or impress me or outrage me. Because from my perspective, it's a fact of life. Wherever and whenever there is large amounts of money involved, greed is going to be a factor. And corporations, companies, they have been making greedy, immoral decisions for centuries. Since the invention of the company, the corporation. Now that doesn't mean they shouldn't be criticized or punished. Absolutely, they should. But, however, like I always say, context matters. And it's important that we look at these individual case-by-case situations and treat them with nuance. Making broad, sweeping, hyperbolic generalizations doesn't help anyone, it just creates more problems. More conflict and misunderstanding. Now, I'm sure for the vast majority of you watching, this is understandable, this is reasonable, this is rational, you don't need this told to you. But when it comes to the internet and social media, it's really easy to get lost in and sucked into echo chambers of unbridled hype and outrage. Let this video, let this commentary piece act as a mental check, an outlet for debate, discussion, and thought, or perhaps even a tool to vent. Because when it comes to the clash of personalities and opinions online, we all know it can get pretty hectic and maybe even leave a mental toll on you. So the meat of this video, what I wanted to get at, well, like I mentioned earlier, context and nuance when it comes to critiquing video game developers. Far too often on the internet, a company, whether it be a video game publisher or developer, is treated as if the brand itself is an individual, or that these companies are all hive minds, that they all think and feel and act the same way as one another, so therefore they should all be treated the same way. I don't think it's too much of a stretch for me to say that's pretty ridiculous. I mean, I'm sure you wouldn't be too pleased if the public started judging you for the bad or selfish decision-making of others, namely your bosses or upper management. The guilt by association mentality, I'm just gonna be blunt, is retarded. It's a terrible, detrimental methodology, and I believe it needs to be stopped. Let me give you some examples. The new upcoming Star Wars game coming later this year, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, being developed by Respawn Entertainment, the guys behind Titanfall and Apex Legends. Now, Respawn have literally never made a bad game. They've been nothing but pro-consumer with all their releases. In all of the marketing for their games, they've never lied. Respawn literally have a perfect track record. And yet, despite all this, there are a large amount of people online saying that Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order is going to be a bad game, it's going to be a failure, that it's going to be full of greedy monetization and bad business practices, because the game is being published by EA. Now, it's completely understandable to be suspicious or even boycott Electronic Arts for their pattern, their bad track record of corporate greed, bad business practices, and anti-consumer monetization in a great many of their games. However, when it comes to this individual case and this individual game, Jedi Fallen Order, the negative outlook and assumption of malicious intent makes no rational sense to be applied here. Because literally every single game Respawn has released has been published by EA. today. We have evidence via Titanfall, Titanfall 2, and Apex Legends that Electronic Arts does not interfere with the development process or in-game monetization for Respawn Entertainment products. Respawn appear to have full creative control. Electronic Arts does interfere with Respawn in other ways, namely the Titanfall 2 release date and the Xbox exclusivity for the first Titanfall. Nonetheless, however, with the context given, the assumption of poor quality or anti-consumer monetization in Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order is unwarranted due to the very moral reputation of Respawn Entertainment, despite them being associated with and published by Electronic Arts. Meanwhile, on the opposite side of the spectrum, for example, we have the overwhelming hype and anticipation for the upcoming Cyberpunk 2077 developed by CD Projekt Red. Now, analyzing the context for their track record, I have no doubt that Cyberpunk 2077 is going to be a game of quality. But the claims being made by fans of the developer that CD Projekt Red is the best video game developer out there, they're the most pro-consumer, they're the most honest, is not true, as we have evidence that CD Projekt Red has lied and misrepresented their games before in the past, namely with The Witcher Free Wild Hunt. The original E3 trailers, gameplay, and marketing did not represent the final product. There was a notable visual downgrade in graphics quality, and CD Projekt Red employees, developers, made multiple statements to the press that there was no downgrade when that's objectively false. They lied. And yet, when fans of the developer and fans of the game The Witcher Free are presented with these facts, that CD Projekt Red does in fact not have a perfect track record, they lash out, they deflect, they make excuses, or are just outright dismissive of this information. Despite these same fans and groups within the gaming community being outraged and offended by the publisher Ubisoft and their graphical downgrades and misrepresentative marketing for their games. Needless to say, there's some obvious hypocrisy and double standards going on here. The video game community has always had bad cases of tribalism, whether it be the console wars, groups of irrational fans devoting themselves and worshipping gaming consoles while showing ire to their supposed rivals. Now, unfortunately, the detrimental mentality of tribalism within the video game community isn't going to go anywhere anytime soon. And keep in mind, this isn't exclusive to video games. This is also an unfortunate occurrence with sports as well. But the way we combat and diffuse tribalism is through discourse and debate. I know it's easy for emotions to run high, especially when it's over items, products, arts, or activities that we are passionate about, that make us happy. But for our own sakes, and the sakes of those around us, it's only fair that we temper our passion, so that that passion not transform into irrational bias, as we see all the time online. But when it comes specifically to video games, you've got to look at these companies, you got to look at these individuals on a case-by-case basis, apply nuance, analyze the context. Don't make assumptions based on mob mentality, based on the majority consensus, because unfortunately a great number of the masses believe in fallacies and falsehoods. So I implore you to take initiative, educate yourself, do research on these companies, on these individuals developing and publishing your video games. By blindly purchasing the next big AAA video game that the community is hyping up, you may find yourself disappointed with your purchase. Or by blindly assuming the worst of a video game and its developer solely based on who is the publisher attached to it, you may also again find yourself disappointed that you missed out on a great game. Finally, this goes without saying, but berating, belittling, or even dehumanizing others for what video games they buy, for what video games they play, for what video games they enjoy, for not subscribing to your exact same perspective, well, it's a worthless endeavor. If you believe that's somehow going to improve the video game community or industry, you're sadly mistaken. It's wasted effort that just spreads needless misery and suffering. Over video games, mind you, and despite my love and passion for video games, they are just first world problems. Need to put everything into perspective here, everyone. When it comes to the gamer side, when it comes to the consumer side of the issues in the video game industry, the simple and easy solution is to just not purchase video games that don't meet your criteria. Now again, I want to reiterate, I'm not trying to talk down to or patronize anyone. Sometimes we just need to take the time to self-reflect, discuss and debate what we might even consider petty or not even noteworthy in terms of social constructs and human behavior, because the internet and the social politics on the internet can be corrupting. We can at times, when we're not even realizing it, internalizing things, internalizing the opinions and perspectives and the actions of others as something to be emotionally attached to and engaged with. We can lose perspective of what's important in life, who in our lives are important to us, and why we even bother interacting with and engaging in these hobbies that I would hope we all initially got into for the sake of experiencing joy, or even spreading joy to others. Video games are a beautiful thing. Play, enjoy, love your favorite video games. No one can take that passion from you, no matter their scathing choice of words they may choose to write or say aloud online. If there was an argument or debate to be had, well, the ones being derogatory to others over personal preferences have already lost and discredited themselves. Keep in mind, however, when it comes to video games, it's always beneficial to be a well-informed consumer. Balance and temper the head and the heart when it comes to the video game community and the industry and video games overall. Anyways, that's been a video. I hope you liked the video. If you did indeed like the video in any way, shape, or form, please be sure to hit the like button. Hit the like button helps you, helps me, helps everybody involved in the video. If you hit the like button, please leave a comment in the comment section down below. I love reading comments, getting near enough comments, please leave a comment. If you want to help out and support this video, please share it on social media, Twitter and Facebook. If you want to help out and support me directly, well, there's always Patreon. Anyways, guys, that's been a video, and I'll see you all later.